Celebrate diversity. In a world where even the most far-flung places show the movies we see in Britain and the United States, where the same, mainly Western, music pours from radios and personal devices, and where, thanks to the reach of the Internet, English is arguably more dominant than it ever was before, it is easy to assume that the cultural differences are a thing of the past, or at least not as important. According to Erin Meyer, a professor at the International Business School INSEAD, this is a grave mistake. Her view, as set out in the recently published book The Culture Map, is that in age of globalization, acknowledging and understanding cultural differences is more important than ever. This is particularly true for leaders, she argues. Leaders have always needed to understand human nature and personality differences. That's nothing new, she writes. What's new is the requirement for 21st century leaders to be prepared to understand a wider, richer array of work styles than ever before, and to be able to determine which aspects of an interaction are simply a result of personality and which are a result of differences in cultural perspective. Meyer believes that executives seeking to build and manage global teams that can work together need to understand not just how people from their cultures see people from elsewhere, but also how those different cultures perceive each other. Definition of diversity. The condition of having or being composed of differing elements. Variety, especially the inclusion of different types of people, such as people of different races or cultures in a group or organization. From NPR, more and more organizations define diversity really broadly, says Eric Peterson, who works on diversity issues. Really? It's a way any group of people can differ significantly from another group of people. Appearance, sexual orientation, veteran status, your level in the organization. It has moved far beyond the legally protected categories that we've always looked at. Diversity, an operational definition from the University of Maryland in 2005, is otherness, or those human qualities that are different from our own and outside the groups to which we belong, yet are present in other individuals and groups. The definition of culture, the way things are done around here. Raymond Williams writes that culture has three divergent meanings. Culture as a process of individual enrichment, as when we say someone is cultured, culture as a group's particular way of life, and culture as an activity pursued by means of the museums, concerts, books, and movies. Diversity is nothing more than a difference from the majority. In any culture, there is a majority and many minorities. Culture is a set of norms that set standards for a society of what is acceptable behavior. This is usually set by the majority. The cultural variety and cultural differences that exist in the world, a society, or an institution, dying languages, and urbanization are threats to cultural diversity. The inclusion of diverse people in a group or organization to embrace cultural diversity in the workplace. This is from an article by Forbes, Diversity is a Key Driver of Innovation. The more people you have working on an idea with different points of views, the more likely it is that your project will be successful. The BSU Student Diversity and Inclusion Office. The director is Francisco Salinas, and they offer many resources, including one-on-one support, some educational and community building programs, and in fact, he did one for the UF200 faculty and staff. They have some trainings that you can attend or request, and they consult to campus and community partners. The goals of BSU for diversity and inclusion include diversity is a fact, inclusion is a practice, equity is our goal. In other words, because we have this diversity, it's very important that we understand that everyone is an equal. The BSU Statement of Diversity and Inclusivity. Here you see the differences, the percent of undergraduates in several ethnic categories. Obviously, white is almost 75% of the student body. So here's the statement. Boise State University is actively committed to diversity and inclusivity. stands in alignment with our statement of shared values. We recognize that our success is dependent on how well we value, engage, include, and utilize the rich diversity of our faculty, staff, students, and alumni. We believe that prejudice, oppression, and discrimination are detrimental to human dignity, and that a vibrant and diverse campus community enhances the learning environment of the populations that we serve. We are fully committed to treating all stakeholders with dignity and respect, and to working collectively on an ongoing basis to build and maintain a community that understands, celebrates, and values diversity, and expects and fosters inclusivity at all levels. So here's their two definitions of diversity and inclusivity. Diversity is the variety of intersecting identities that make individuals unique, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, gender expression or identity, socioeconomic status, age, country of origin, veteran status, abilities, spirituality, religious beliefs, and political beliefs. Diversity recognizes the uniqueness of individuals, populations, groups, and their perspectives and experience. And in fact, I should use this definition as a way to talk about cultural frameworks. Inclusivity is the conscious and deliberate decision to continuously work toward the creation of an accepting and nurturing campus climate where similarities and differences are respected, supported, and valued by ensuring the active participation of the entire campus community. Actually, this is part of what I think UF200 is about, is to make sure that similarities and differences are respected. Here's facts from the U.S. Census Bureau. It's a prediction of the percentage of minorities versus white people from 1970 to a prediction of 2050. All in all, minorities, now 37% of the U.S. population, are projected to comprise 57% of the population in 2060. Minorities consist of all but the single-race, non-Hispanic white population. The total minority population would more than double from 116.2 million to 241.3 million over the period. Hitachi's case for workplace diversity: increased creativity, better outcomes, workplace happiness, staying ahead of the game, a wider talent pool, and stakeholder support are some of the consequences and reasons for workplace diversity. From your reading in the article from Scientific American, you know that for groups that value innovation and new ideas, diversity helps. When we hear dissent from someone who is different from us, it provokes more thought than when it comes from somebody who looks just like us. From another reading from Scientific American, Catherine Phillips tells us, when we have to work with people who are not like ourselves, we tend to prepare more thoroughly and work harder to marshal our arguments, and we do better work as a result. Diversity is beneficial for teams precisely because we react differently to people who are different from us. If the end goal is excellence, diversity is an essential ingredient. So where do you see diversity? It's not just that people are diverse, it's what they do and how they live, and what they eat and how they celebrate and what they believe, and so much more. I find it astonishing that food, in terms of taco recipes, has such an enormous variety. My tacos are not the same as my sister's tacos are not the same as the tacos my mother used to make us. She used those little packages of powder. I use my own spices. I'm positive that almost everybody has a different recipe for tacos, unless you're people who don't eat tacos. Traditional dinner meals are different from family to family, from coast to coast, from continent to continent, from country to country. Where do you live? An island, a continent, a city, a country, near the ocean, the rivers, the mountains, the plains, the deserts, the canyons? And what kind of transportation do you use? Do you ride a bike? Do you use your car? Do you walk to work? So many places where you can see diversity. Why cultural diversity matters. This is a TED Talk by Michael Gavin. Language diversity reflects the different traditions and lifestyles of groups of people. There is value to cultural diversity and to the people who represent smaller, diverse groups. The loss of cultural diversity happens when a small number of cultural groups are determining the shape and fabric of society, representing an imbalance of power. He discusses how a particular language reflects the different traditions and lifestyles of a single group of people. He talks about how the viewpoints of different people provide solutions to problems. Why celebrate diversity? As Melody Hobson says in her TED Talk, Colorblind, Color Brave, I'm actually asking you to do something really simple. Observe your environment at work, at school, at home. I'm asking you to look at the people around you purposefully and intentionally. Invite people into your life who don't look like you, don't think like you, don't act like you, don't come from where you come from, and you might find that they will challenge your assumptions and make you grow as a person. You might get powerful new insights from these individuals. I think this is a really good thing to consider doing with your life. So celebrate diversity. Don't just go along with what everybody seems to believe or what they might choose as right. Question your own beliefs and discover where they come from. Do some research and discover the other points of view that exist and try to see their value. You can do this by actually doing online research in the library or by talking to people who, like Melody Hobson suggested, don't look like you, don't think like you, and don't act like you. And remember, a diverse group of people is far better able to solve a problem than a group of like-minded people who all have the same knowledge.